And Silvername and RDU are Protect Priest gamers.
Woo!
And that's where we want to see it.
Yeah.
We've been seeing a lot of wishy-washy decks that aren't Priest being protected, and then a lot of Priests getting banned. And I still feel like that is cutting into your win rate.
Fino said it best. Not banning Priest, or not protecting Priest is stupid. He directed that comment at Orange for, you know, I guess because he's your teammate. That's, you got to show some tough love, I suppose. I don't know. I've seen Priest just do massive things, and I think that last game is a pretty big example of like what Priest is capable of. Where even in the face of like getting Ahmet stolen, like you're constantly getting fought back against, these disastrous things are happening to you. You still have game, and I'm like, this is not how aggro decks are supposed to work. Like once you hit this point, you're supposed to have lost the game at that point.
Oh,
it's supposed to be over.
Losted. Yeah.
And it was just still fighting potential the whole way through. You know, that's Priest in a nutshell. It is a very resilient aggro deck.
It's just way too flexible, right? Like people will say, well, why does Priest beat Druid? Well, it plays big minions early, it pushes a bunch of damage early, it plays Divine Spirit on a minion and Druid can never kill it, it plays Ahmet and then there's a bunch of minions that Druid can't kill. None of that really happened that game. There wasn't a ton of early damage that went through. He didn't draw a single Divine Spirit the entire game. Ahmet got stolen away, so it didn't really get that much value out of it. And there was still just a freaking 18 attack Light Warden on board the entire game. Like, Priest is ridiculous. Play it. It's good.
RDU go with Warrior here in game number 1. Still a fan of it. Still like the matchup. And has things to do. Important.
Yeah, Silvername, a little light on things to do, I would say. Now, you know, classic Priest players, you know, Mars will be looking at this hand and going, woo, 2 Blade Master Circles, sign me up.
We're going
like,
way back.
Snap those out immediately. But honestly, against Warrior, like, playing Circle of Healing without drawing cards off it is sometimes just kind of an L for you in the situation.
So I guess that means next turn we're going to get a pretty good glimpse of where Silvername thinks he's at.
Yep.
It's going to account for the card draw of what's left in the deck as well. This is an important match for RDU, though. He's going to stave off relegation. Today is the day.
It is.
To make that a real fight.
2-7 is tied for the worst record in the region currently with Psycho and Fino. Fino's still yet to play and pick up a win there, of course. RDU not in that division, but even on his own side, he is currently sat bottom of the group, looking up, trying to stop spaces appearing between him and the rest of the players above him. He needs to start winning on a regular basis. He needs to start doing what Fino's been doing the last couple of weeks. Just picking up those wins. Silvername, on the other hand, playoff contention very much in his grip, and that did not seem like a story we would be telling after we got to the end of Season 1, which, you know, he started to recover, and maybe you can say that he was showing some signs that maybe Season 2 would be a better season, but I think if you take his season as a whole, it would not have been the smart bet to bet on Silvername making playoffs in Season 2.
The big question for me was deck list.
Yeah.
And I think in this season, he's had 1 week of big question marks on deck lists. The rest of them, there's reasons for it.
Yep.
And you have the question mark over the Bomb Warrior that he's brought this week. I still like Bomb Warrior.
It does surprise me that Bomb Warrior doesn't feel very good whenever I come around to sort of thinking about it, because obviously it has the built-in, like, innate advantage of just messing with everyone's Highlander decks, just because it's Bomb Warrior.
It's a good deck.
A thing that doesn't really get talked about, but whenever I think, like, oh, maybe it's Bomb Warrior time again, it just never seems like it is. It always just seems to underperform for me.
Get good.
Duly noted. But yeah, I totally agree. I think multiple times last season, we were in the position where we were watching Silvername's games going, wow, he's playing these bad decks really well.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like, I've had very few qualms with lines that Silvername has taken. And I think that in control-style matchups, like, you know, I think back to his some of his matches where he's had big deviations from the normal Bomb Warrior game plan. He's looked very strong. You know, he's often said that in the media pieces that we've seen that control is where his primary strength is. And I think that when control is one of your primary strengths, it does give you some good insights into how to play more aggressive decks, because you know what troubles you when you're in those spots. And so you try to create that same circumstance on the opposing side.
Right. see what I was talking about in the previous turn, right? Like, how easy does this turn look for, like, 2014 Priest? But this is a different world, and Nausea Cleric is just an absolute monster of a card that can bring your whole deck alive with Pyromancers and Circles in your hand.
What if it just always was, and we didn't put this deck together?
I would listen to that argument. Yeah, there was a lot of things we missed in Hearthstone for a very long time. We were having that discussion the other day. Like, yeah, one day I just came in, was talking to Chucky, and was like, yeah, I think I'm going to put 1 Wild Growth in my deck. It cost 2, by the way. It was nuts. It belonged in every Druid deck. We just didn't realize for a very long time.
My reasoning was, it's really good on turn 2, but when you draw on turn 5 and 6, it just doesn't feel very good at all. He's like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Maybe...
No one played Naturalize in Druid forever.
Well, that was because of Force Nature, Savage Roar,
Yeah.
and Zoo having 0 cost Soulfire.
Yes.
And Leroy Power Overwhelming. And
Yeah, if you gave Dex cards, they killed you
Naturalize
very
back
consistently.
then sucked, but the Wild Growth part, that was...
still argue we did not play it for too long. Like, it
So
passed the
many
point where we
choices.
could have been playing it.
Emperor Thorson was the next meta.
Yeah. You know what you can do to an Emperor Thorson if you can't remove it as Druid? You can naturalize it.
Oh, my gameplay was always just kill him.
Fair enough.
I'm like, yeah, have your innervates, idiot.
Yeah.
Take 7. Force Nature, Savage Roar. Already no way to kill this injured Blade Master on board. The debate was solely on whether or not to tempo this 4-5 or not.
Fully agree with tempoing the 4-5.
I am a bit curious about the swing of the weapon. Like, I'm curious if you could ever justify that.
Coin the Blade Master, and now this is officially too juicy.
Yeah. Well, the first Blade Master didn't die, right? Like,
Yep.
You're expecting it to die to Restless Mummy. You're expecting it to die to Shield Slam.
Yep.
So when it doesn't, how telling of RDU's hand is that, is Silvername's thought. And so Silvername has gone, you know what? I think that this rush minion was then Ziliax.
It just kind of has to be at that point.
You know, perhaps RDU didn't want to use the Mummy because he's staring down the weapons project. Plausible thought. But in this case, the Restless Mummy's doing the same thing. It's just
So
killing
many
one single
choices.
minion.
Yep.
Even if it is Restless Mummy, you found a way to turn it into effectively the same card it was last turn. The issue is going to come in, are these 4-7s and this 4-5 enough to really get the
So
job done?
many
Right,
Because
which
if it's
is-
not, you're going to have to add more pressure.
The salient point of talking about, look, Circle of Healing's great and all, but we need to draw cards off Nausea Cleric to win this matchup a lot of the time. The other way we win the matchup is just our opening hand is something similar to this, and then we just have a Divine Spirit and an Inner Fire to go along with it.
Yeah.
And you're able to deal 14 damage early on, scythe away all the armor, so Shield Slam isn't a factor.
Like, in the match yesterday where Zilay was in this spot, his hand was, like, pretty abysmally awful over in the Americas region. And he ended up going pass, 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 and it died. And it didn't die to anything spectacular. It just didn't have anything to really
Eventually
do.
died, yeah.
Silvername doesn't have that kind of hand, and so every single turn that he's not able to really build a lot of pressure, that card draw starts becoming imminent at that point.
Yes.
However, this is now officially, for me, reached the, oh my gosh, this is scary territory, and RDU needs to start thinking about alternatives.
Yeah, certainly before the extra arms nerf, this was one of the ways that the matchup was won for Priest, where you just played a minion, it didn't die, you put more stats on it. That pulled it out of range of whatever the next
Maybe
removal step was.
Yeah,
You
because
know, be
you
it
play a
rest-
1-drop, and then it's a 3-5.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're like, oh, well, that's not good. I don't
Oh.
interact with that. And then
I
on the
didn't have-
next turn, it's a freaking 5-7. And then they have a Restless Mummy in their hand going, oh, I'm
Yeah.
upset about this. And
Well,
it just kept outscaling that position.
Warrior was staring at the 1-3 on turn 1 going, there's literally not a card in Warrior that kills this right now. And you're like, and there literally never will be. Extra arms. You're like, ah! Oh, boy.
That's a bingo.
What do you use this turn to get it done?
Everything.
I wonder.
I'm actually kind of serious about that. Like, do you use the more arms with the Wild Pyro?
I mean, it was kind of a serious answer. Just replace this hand with a whole new hand.
Well, do you lead with like Topsy-Turvy here ever?
I don't think so.
Like, how relevant is mana open? That would be to yield another card draw?
Sure. Actually, does using the Topsy help you deal with the Snip Snaps? You don't want to anyway, right? Because you just want them to get injured and draw a card. No, I think this is the right way of doing it. My initial instincts.
Okay, so draw your 5. I already used space, so this is draw 5. Yep. 0 mana, draw 5. I mean, granted, use the rest of his mana and other combination cards, but you dig to the important tools. Smashed in the face.
It's not like his other cards didn't do anything. One of the other cards he played was a 1 mana 1/3. Another one was 3 mana +2/2 that was a token card generated by another card.
Thinking shield block.
It's not like he has to throw away low value cards to achieve this effect.
Shield slam. Threat of lethal.
It's like more than a threat to me.
I'm running my Snip Snaps into the 8/12.
Oh.
26, heal, Divine Spirit, Beaming Sidekick, flip with the Topsy-Turvy.
Hey, I got you, friend.
14, 16, 32, flip it around. That's 15 max. Fair enough. Just the 30 will have to do.
Yep. And Silvername takes game 1. The timing of the injured in circles, the paramount piece of that puzzle.
Yep. Took a risk. He took a risk 2 out of 3 times. That Ziliax in hand was a Restless Mummy. And then the Restless Mummy comes down, it kills the first Blade Master, leaves a little bit of a tempo swing in play, although Silvername has the weapon to take care of it. And then Silvername's just kind of looking at another fairly sad-looking Blade Master Circle of Healing from that point. Like, I know it's weird to be talking about 3 mana 4/7 as like an underwhelming play, but it just kind of is in that matchup because
it's 2 cards.
It's 2 cards, and eventually it's just going to get dealt with. It's unlikely to be lethal unless, like I say, you're just sat on a Divine Spirit in a Fire hand. The important thing, as was made very, very clear in that late game scenario, is the Nausea Cleric in that spot. And Nausea Cleric Pyromancer's Circle of Healing is one of the ways you can beat Warrior, which some people will erroneously suggest is an unfavored matchup for Priest. It's one of the best matchups in the metagame right now in terms of beating Priest, but I think it's 50-50 at best.
I'll disagree with that, but I do want to add to your point about the injured Blade Master in Circle. It seems like a 4/7 would be nuts, but think about how you lose the matchup as Priest. You run out of gas and don't have anything to do. So the Nausea Cleric clearly important for that. But using 2 cards and watching that card get answered, that's just as bad if it gets answered straight away. And that's why that timing there is paramount. Test for the Mummy. You have an answer back with the Mummy with the weapon.
Yep.
If that test passes, go in.
Go in. Because even if the Mummy were there, because Weapons Project was played early by RDU, Restless Mummy still kills your 4/7s. Like, that's actually one of the ways you can feel like you get away with 4/7s in the matchup sometimes, is you're like, well, this gets out of range of Restless Mummy, and that's sick, because I don't want to get Restless Mummied in the early game. Like, that is the keep in that matchup for Warrior. It's Town Crier, it's Restless Mummy, and it's Brawl a lot of the time.
Weapons Project, too.
Weapons Project is pretty important too. But so if you can play around that Restless Mummy by getting a 4/7, you feel so great about it. But in that spot, Weapons Project was just making that little breakpoint different. I think Silvername navigated through it as well as he could, and like, yeah, sure, Cleric Circle seems broken. You've got to get yourself to that spot. There was mistakes he could have made.
And indeed. And so with that, we got to go to a quick break. But when we come back, we are amidst our 4th match between Silvername and RDU. Right now, Silvername is a 1-0 lead, and RDU, his record is on life support. Desperately needs to win these next 2 games. Stay tuned.
Legends say powerful treasures are hidden everywhere here in Aldum.
If we hope to defeat Rafam, we'll need as many as we can get. He's already unleashed the ancient plague lords and countless monsters. Keep them distracted, Reno.
Not a problem. This plan is totally gonna work. Ain't that right, Finley?
Oh, yes! I have them right where I want them.
There is an artifact here. The name is...
The Scales of Justice. Oh, it must be really fancy.
Only to be used in a time of great peril. Yes, I think this qualifies.
Hey, look, Finley! You've lured one of the Plague Lords!
Take this, fiend!
In the face! Yeah! Hey, guys! Get that treasure! We've got a Plague Lord to destroy!
Yes, please, hurry!
Not to worry, Finley. We just push this thing right here.
No, that's a trap. Watch out!
It's all good. I am phonily timed.
Gracious me!
What we actually need to do is press this. And there. A fish.
No! It's the scales of justice!
Ah, who wants to use it first?
Oh, I do! Me! On second thought, maybe give it to Finley?
All you had to do was hold a rope.
Here we go, blaming the tall, ruggedly handsome guy again.
Меня зовут Владислав, мой никнейм Silvername, и моя страница на Твиче Silvername. Как придумал имя, бронза — это слишком мало, потому что, бронза, как я говорил, 3-4 место — это самое обидное место. Золото слишком пафосно, а серебро — это золотая середина. Быть грандмастером для меня, наверное, показывать хорошую игру или учить людей, что я делал до этого. Записывать какие-то гайды обучающие, только делать это еще в большем количестве. Самое главное — ответственность. Точно ответственность. Хобби, я бы не назвал его хобби, но до того, как я начал стримить и профессионально играть, я профессионально занимался музыкой. На протяжении 5 лет ездил на всякие там конкурсы, выступал. Потом из-за, можно сказать, травмы спины закончил делать это. Сейчас, можно сказать, иногда поигрываю для души чисто, чтобы расслабиться. Наверное, самое, чего не хотелось бы, это, скорее всего, вылететь из этой лиги, потому что это самое обидное будет. Для того, чтобы это случилось, это должно крайне не повезти. И кому-то 16 игроков явно не повезет. И не хотелось бы оказаться на их месте.
Welcome back to Splendid Sunday here at Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe. A bonus match is in play on Splendid Sunday, or whatever S adjective I choose to use at that point. It means 6th match instead of just the normal 5. I'm Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora, joined by Simon Sottle Welch, who's also splendid. Splendid Simon, splendid Sottle Welch.
Swelch.
It's better than Melch, I guess.
It sure is. You've
Yeah.
been doing so well up until this point.
I figured out what it
Congratulations.
was, by the way. I
Really?
practiced it. It's because I'm coming off of Zamora. The last name cadence has the M in it.
Okay.
And because your last name is one syllable, I'm hitting the cadence with the M. That's literally what was happening. And I know that because I practiced it last night so that I wouldn't do it today.
Well, tell you one thing, and that Silvername hit the cadence of those injured Blade Masters just right in that previous game, and that let him pull out a 1-0 advantage in this series, picking up what some people would describe as the unfavorable, which is fantastic in any series. Being a best of 3, it's a huge, huge impact. Now we've got what could be a slightly more long and drawn-out affair, although bear in mind, this is not the big grindy battle of Shaman versus Control Warrior that we are necessarily used to seeing. Silvername is bringing Admirable's favorite, the Bomb Warrior.
Speak to me.
Favorite's a bit much. I like it, though.
I think in the last metagame, Bomb Warrior was the deck you showed the most enthusiasm for.
Oh, it's just so awesome.
There we go. Ah, nice Silverback Patriarch. Just what we always wanted.
No, I want the card 2 Defender. I think there's some merit to playing on curve, though.
I'm only half joking, yeah. I like seriously think Silverback Patriarch is worth thinking about here. Yep.
I wonder actually if the Grunt's ever better for the sake simply of using the Omega assembly.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we could definitely talk through that line as well, but I just think you're expecting 2 1s and 1 1s and a bunch of stuff to come down in the future, so just shape-wise, Silverback Patriarch ticks all the boxes as well. Well, now that's interesting. Now that's a curve lining up. It's a curve that puts a bunch of damage into RDU's face.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, this is one of the reasons I've liked Bomb Warrior, is when I was playing Quest Shaman against it, I very quickly realized at the end of the game that drawing cards had a much different impact
Yes.
than I was used to it having.
Yep.
And so I kind of had to get busy with the Life Drinker Shutterwalk plan. Now, that being said, the Life Drinker Shutterwalk plan is also more effective. To make space in Silvername's deck for all these extra cards, he has cut Shield Block, he's cut Shield Slam, and there's no copies of Weapons Project. So the extra armor is pretty much limited to Eternium Rover and to Dr. Boom Mad Genius.
I will add a caveat to that point, though, in that Bomb Warrior is still running like Omega Assembly in this point, which there's only one in Silvername's deck, but some of the Control Warrior builds are actually cutting Omega Assembly, at which point I think it's a lot more justifiable to say, well, we don't need the burn plan against Control Warrior because we can outvalue you. If you don't play Omega Assembly, I'm just going to get a whole bunch of lackeys, I'm going to get a sick Barista, I'm going to maybe even Bog Slosh in my Barista instead of a Life Drinker or whatever else, we're going to go down that route. Maybe, yep, I think Life Drinker is a much more valuable card against Bomb Warrior than it even is against Control Warrior.
I would tend to agree that's the case. The life would be the kicker. You're getting pressured in the matchup. Against Warrior, when you're on Quest Shaman, I feel like the pressure comes much more rarely. See, the way that RDU has spanned this out, I imagine he's going to have interest in taking care of this Elec.
Double time and double pay.
It's 6th point of that quest. And one more Explorer.
Nicely done. Silvername trading on the previous turn, pushing a little less damage than he could have done because he wanted to remove lackeys from play, shut down the weaponized Wasp, being able to take care of his Elec. Just so happened RDU had the rush lackey. RDU is greeted with his first Silverback Patriarch in probably a long time. I do like that the nerf to the Discover effects has kind of brought some more of these weird niche cards like into play. Like you do have to think about, well, how am I getting use out of a Silverback Patriarch or an Iron Fur Grizzly or like whatever garbage you end up being offered.
2 bombs drawn right away.
You just spawned 2 okay, nice.
I didn't realize they had also changed the bomb effects to say,
course it's the right
put a
way.
bomb on top of your opponent's deck. That didn't change. But
Clarification. We're making that. That would make Blastmaster Boom a really bad card.
I tell you what, it would make good though. Stuff like Sephorium Bomber.
Bomb Warrior.
Yeah, just jamming some Kobold Sand Troopers into that deck too. I mean, RDU had a more mana efficient option, but I agree that he's going to need the excess in cards from his Sludge Slurper. No other way to generate in hand.
Right. Yeah, I was just interested in with Big Bad Voodoo in hand. It's kind of a risk to expose this Flesh Shaper to the board to potentially die. Premium target for that Big Bad Voodoo.
You've seen a Town Crier, so that was really my question mark behind it.
No tomb can hold me.
I guess you just take too much damage if you're not clearing anything. Like, it's just going to pile up and add on, right?
Yep.
I have 2 Sandstorm Elementals in my hand, though.
Definitely those 2 bomb draws have had an impact and just how scared RDU has to be about this situation. Ethereal Lackeys can come in very clutch as well, remember. So those healing outs that we saw in the previous series.
Yeah, I think the thing to really keep in mind for RDU is like approaching the turn 8 territory. I think cleanly handling Tomb Warden needs to be on his mind. You know, I'm looking at 2 Tomb Wardens, it's easy to say.
Right.
But that's really the big pressure point I think that Silvername's going to present against him. You know, you didn't see our Megadillo, so I think that you're quite confident that that's not necessarily coming down next turn. And you know that that's the way that Silvername's intended to bridge into turn 9 for Dr. Boom Mad Genius. If that's the case, continue to fight aggressively and look for opportunities to be able to fight against Tomb Warden.
There is that Witch's Brew we were talking about, though, so RDU will suddenly be feeling a lot more at ease with his situation.
Well, I'm looking at the turn 8 into turn 9, and that might change some of that ease.
I wonder.
This turn, however.
Yeah, this is not a fun experience.
Yeah, I think if I'm in Silvername's spot, I'm pretty apt to want to use the Omega Assembly. But the nature of Bomb Warrior is that your mid-game draws are not nearly as impactful as Control Warrior's draws are. Like, you have a lot of pretty weak draws throughout the game. And so having value is something that I often, you know, I've kind of scoffed at when I'm playing Bomb Warrior. I'm like, I could just use this Omega Assembly very aggressively. And then I realize, wait a minute, I'm not Control Warrior. I need to end the game.
Yep.
So I have regret that a number of times. And I imagine if you're in Silvername's position and you keep bringing Bomb Warrior, it's a deck that you've experienced that a number of times. Try to get aggressive, it's failed. Just take it patient. You have 2 Tomb Wardens.
TC 130 into dislocator.
See the threat of the Evil Totem being valued over a 3/3 there, even when Silvername is desperate to try and get stats on board. Still no Weaponized Wasp been found by RDU, which means these 3/6s are much more awkward to deal with than they often are.
Let's go look for one then.
I hope you like my invention.
Looks clean to me.
Yep. Value trade with the mind control tech.
Set up very aggressively against Dr. Boom Mad Genius as well.
Yep. Think it happens anyway.
Well, worth considering though. I do think this Dynomatic offers you an interesting opportunity.
If it wasn't for the 3/4, then we'd be in business. Restless Mummy come down first, Dynomatic clean up. Yeah. That 3/4 is just irritating.
I'm just kind of feeling it.
Sometimes you just believe. You can see now how clutch this Witch's Brew might end up being, though, because, you know, I think Silvername, turn after turn after turn, is going to be fighting an uphill battle against this flood of lackeys, especially now Witchwood Piper has been found in hand. So that bomb out in the deck was very important for him to have this game. And that Witch's Brew is going to shut that down.
Look, you got a pretty high chance to connect to that for 1 point. You get 5 shots with 6 minions to play.
Yep.
1 in 6, 5 times. That actually, I wonder what the math on that is.
Well, it's also, you also have to factor in the worlds where, like, you do that, you get the one that you want on the mind control tech, but you also hit each Sandstorm Elemental for 1 each, which then also makes your Restless Mummy worse on the count. Like, he actually got, like, about the best possible outcome.
Oh, RDU, not a good outcome on the mutate.
No. 2 5/5s, though. You like those.
Oh, my goodness.
That is pretty high quality these days for an Omega Assembly. Nice spider tank, spare devastator.
Mortuary machine.
Yep.
That one may stay in hand for a bit. 5-mana 8/8 after your opponent plays a minion. Give it Reborn.
Who cares how many 1/1s they play that have Reborn? You're scared of Mermy as Control Warrior? I'm kidding. I don't want to play the card.
Not yet.
No.
But he's beating down the door. I mean, it may be soon.
If we can set up a big lethal push with it, then count me in. That card might be a factor. See how important that Omega Assembly ended up being, though, for Silvername. Because if he ever, like, fully falls behind on this board, and it might have been one of the things he was thinking with that Dr. Boom Mad Genius turn, like, if he gives RDU a free turn, RDU can just use that free turn to kind of heal up and take away all these outs that Silvername still has available to him.
Look at the lackeys.
By Silvername keeping on the pressure, he's making RDU spend mana on doing stuff, not just healing his own face.
Those lackeys are insane.
What?
Be rushed.
That's exciting.
That's just free minions. Wait, when it makes a copy, does it copy enchantments? So like,
Yes.
will it copy this rush buff?
Oh, good question. Let's find out. Yes, it does.
That's insane!
Yep.
That is like shockingly good.
Do you want to do it? It's kind of just lethal, right? The mortuary machine thing.
I was thinking mortuary machine
It's kind
Ziliax.
of lethal.
You know there's an Earthshock in
That's
oh no,
fine.
that's not an RDU stack. Don't- oh my gosh. It still has rush. It still has rush.
It still has rush. Yes, correct.
This is insane. This is insane. Sottle, call the police. This is illegal.
More. All right. Fine. Fine.
I think 3 of them's enough. Like, let the man live for a turn.
Job done.
Also, you know there's Warpath in the deck. You don't want to get too far down. But that's it. This was like 2 cards in 2 turns. It created this whole mess. And now what do you do?
Situation unclear.
Silvername's a lot more calm than I would be right now. I'd be livid. Oh, if they Witch's Brood again, ooh. I'm mad just thinking about it.
All right, we've got our usage out of this. You want to turn it into a nice 8-drop instead? What is this game? Earthshock trade, make an 8-drop. Go with the former champ instead if you want to hold on to the use.
No, I want the 5/2 to upgrade.
1/1 to a 6-drop or a 5-mana. No, yeah, like that's just better, right? On
You did
average?
get, I feel like you did get word that there's not a Warpath and that there's not a Brawl.
Right.
Like, I feel like Silvername would have brawled that many 5/2s.
Right.
Like, using a Tomb Warden into that's not as efficient.
He only got
Lord Beltrog.
+5 stats off that evolve. Doesn't he just get so much more than that?
I think it's the impact the Gates can have.
He wants to play around 5-cost Warpath, I guess, or 5-path. He wants to try and spike the higher health so he doesn't just get the board nuked. I guess that makes sense.
Oh, boy.
Let's go, Witchwood Piper.
2 Warpaths, 2 Brawls buried in Silvername's deck. He needed them for a number of turns.
He did.
Every time you draw a card with Fellord Beltrog, it makes a copy of that minion with Rush, and at the end of turn, you sacrifice it.
Like that. Both Wrench Calibers gone for Silvername. Just the Clockwork Goblins and Blastmaster Boom remaining in terms of actually trying to push some damage, set up some bombs, end the game. Looks like he's firmly locked into survival mode right now.
That evolve just changed everything. And it's Ziliax time.
Unity, precision.
That's not a very good Ziliax.
It's just still a Fell Lord Beltrog on the board.
It's just, it has to be good enough. Like you're getting destroyed on the value front right now. I will say that RDU's deck size is limited. I mean, Beltrog's a good minion. It's just hard to get in play. A, because you're Warlock, and B, because, you know, it's 8 mana.
Yes.
Once it's in play, that's a good card. RDU's just taking over. He's starting to get Kobold lackeys now.
Is he at all worried about playing this Novice Engineer this game? I think he probably is, right?
I don't think I would be playing it. I think you got the goods.
Yeah.
Like, your board hasn't been cleared. Like, all of the AoE's buried.
Literally
Launch
just
the assault.
Gives up this 3-4 on board. Doesn't want to trade through that way. Doesn't want to give the healing over to Silvername. Wants to set up lethal for himself instead. That ain't it. That's looking very 1-1 to me.
Mechanical Whelp, trade. No, too much mana.
Clockwork Goblin, Dynomatic.
Mortuary Machine.
Somebody order a bomb.
I think he's
Somebody order a bomb.
dead. He's dead.
He's playing to a Blastmaster Boom off the top next turn as an additional out to be a board clear. Smart. Actually, I guess no, he could still play one with that next turn, even in that case. So maybe that's not even necessary.
Yeah, RDU just awaits the draw. Has the goods.
Belong to the bomb now.
That just turned around so quick.
Underbelly Ooze for the game.
All the AoE buried in Silvername's deck, too.
Yep.
You know, like I said, it's not Control Warrior. Its tools don't fight quite as well. But that Underbelly Ooze, that was the freaking MVP. My gosh, did that thing give a beating over to the other side.
And I said that the Witch's Brew was going to have a big impact. It was giving RDU a whole bunch of security. I did not envisage the world where it was going to be used to continue to heal an Underbelly Ooze that had been given Rush, so it could continuously plow through a Tomb Warden while netting positive value for the opponent.
Oh, you didn't see that?
I didn't see that line, no.
That's
no.
what I was expecting.
Oh, okay, yeah. As soon as he played the Ethereal Lackey on like turn 3 or whatever and picked the Witch's Brew, I was like, oh yeah, that's for his Underbelly Ooze that he's going to evolve into later.
Oh yeah. You always mutate the 6-cost minion. That got upgraded by, what is it, Big Bad Voodoo? Was that the name of that card? The Death Rattle upgrade one? Bad mutate.
I think it was the other way around. I think it was the Big Bad Voodoo that gave us the Underbelly Ooze because he smacked the 3-4 into the Omega Devastator and it died,
Wow, it was some big bad voodoo.
It was some real big bad voodoo.
So the mutate was the bad mutate, and the big bad voodoo was the good mutate?
Now you're thinking with portals.
Or was the mutate the bad big bad voodoo? Either way, it's 1-1 tied at, the score we're at now. I lost my train of thought there for a second. I still think that Shaman is favored versus Bomb Warrior. It's just the nature of a Shaman versus Warrior matchup. The game for Silvername, I do think, improves because sometimes RDU isn't blessed with a lot of resource generation, and he has to draw into the deck to find important tools. That game, it was a much different game plan where Evolves were the major mechanism, and he already had a lot of generation tools. So not having to draw, obviously a benefit for him in that spot, and then also not having to face AoE, a benefit for him in that spot. And so now we find ourselves in the Game 1 scenario with the roles reversed.
Roles reversed and very different deck lists because, again, this is a Bomb Warrior from Silvername, which means the addition of Wrench Caliber to Proceedings can actually be a big deal. But some of the cards he's giving up for that, for example, Weapons Project, not a card being featured in the deck, can be a very, very big deal.
Pair of Frightened Flunkies threaten their impact.
Silvername just loves one-attack taunt minions.
Oh, mama, that draw is good.
Ding!
This place is scary.
Try again. Cheap one. Interesting. The medium option. Why the medium option?
Job's done.
I don't know. I'm really worried about the slide board.
It's just going to one by one single-handedly farm all of these taunt minions.
Yes,
Yep.
it is.
Yep. Dynamatic might have something to say about that equation, though, in a couple of turns, depending on how much health RDU can get on board in the meantime.
Well, that much. I mean, I'm pretty sure for RDU Spot, you're pretty interested in letting this injured Tolvir bite the dust. I mean, the question mark on his mind right now is Restless Mummy versus me.
Yep.
That's why it's a great pause here.
What must I
Yeah, easy
do?
for us. We can look at the hand and see that Silvername really has no game against this until turn 5 when Dynamatic comes down, but as far as RDU is concerned, he has to start panicking right now, because if he gives up a board swing to the Restless Mummy, he's in trouble.
What must I do?
So is the best way to fight that? Just continue to farm the minions and play?
Maybe. Injured.
That makes me want a Power
Tolvir
Word Shield.
Heal, yeah. So Tolvir heal doesn't really do anything. You don't get a good trade over the 3/3 anyway, so you can't force a Restless Mummy to just double bump into your Tolvir.
So
I
then
feel like-
Psycho Pump considerations.
Powered Shield, value trade, injured Tolvir. Do you even trade? You push the 6 instead? Does that hurt you at all?
Snip Snap.
Okay.
I like hitting. I like farming the minion instead. I think shutting off potential is worth a lot more.
That's fair.
Already you clearly pained about it. But that's because he is awaiting a Restless Mummy with the way his season has gone so far. When things have gone bad for you, you expect them to keep going bad. I don't know why that works the way it works, but
Yeah, that is called human nature.
that is a beautiful sight. You look at the way the RDU just reacts to it, he's like, what the? Okay, yeah.
I still have an 8/3. It's alive this turn.
I find it crazy. We've talked about Restless Mummy, the importance of it. Running Town Criers in the list, just hasn't been there on turn 4. There is a tomb that can hold him. It's called the Deck. You know, as sick as it sounds, I want this Faithful Lumi. I want the kicker option.
So I was looking at it. Did you have something specific in mind you wanted to do with it?
I was going to play the Snip Snap this turn.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, just the option to have a 1-mana card that impacts something.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of where my mind was at as well.
I mean, you can't fear Restless Mummy
What
forever,
do the
right?
cards
You've got a
say?
very clear sign it's not there.
Yeah,
If-
I think now...
If Silvername broke out like 3rd card Restless Mummy here,
Oh, the Galaxy Brain play. No, but I think, like, RDU right now, I think this is a situation where we're in a very similar spot, where we are both thinking we can see the hand, but RDU, based on his reads, can almost divine the hand exactly. And he's like, right, I need to play around Dynamatic and Ziliax now. Those are the things that are scary to me.
Brawl.
Sure.
That's about it, though.
Hey, look, he played around Dynamatic and Ziliax. Excellent.
You never truly play around Dynamatic.
No, I know. But in order to make the Dynamatic happen, Silvername has to throw a 3/4 into a 2/5 and then play a Dynamatic, which means the highest health minion left remaining on board, and therefore the most likely one to live, is a freaking 10/3. That feels pretty play-aroundy to me.
Yeah, that tells me that you're using a Ziliax.
Six health. trades over.
Oh, it heals him and it buffs the Light Warden.
The second Light Warden grows to 5. A heal on the next turn means that it trades.
I'm upset. I forgot about that. Oh, Silvername's in trub.
Yes, he is.
Those Light Wardens are getting out of hand. That's a brick wall that RDU just put in play, too.
I've more left in me.
So his interest is getting rid of the 1-2.
I want the 1-2 for Brawl. Yeah, okay, sure.
You get some extra pumps on the Light Warden, too.
It's only the difference between healing between 29 and 30 anyway, and you do get that extra point of healing, which buffs it up to 16, and you buff it up to 18. Is this actually just more damage as well? I think it might be in the long run, right? Because you get 3 heals. Yeah. Yeah. This is smart. Real smart.
Consolidate.
Yep. Very, very smart.
The last hope. Draws for lethal. That Mogushan Warden could be the savior of this game.
Pomp number 2. Get another reborn guy. No real downside of that if the threat of Brawl coming out.
I think the threat is still very real. I just
don't think like adding another reborn minion to the pool really like I don't think it's playing into Brawl necessarily just to put another reborn minion on the board.
Yeah.
Take your 5 damage. Try again next turn.
Not it. RDU in a critical match defeats Silvername 2-1. And once again, the second breath of life that ends up happening. He's staved off a terrifying week where losing this match could have meant disaster for him.
Yep. And it was the series got flipped on its head a couple of times. Early on, the Priest winning over the Warrior for Silvername seemed to put him in a position that you could kind of foresee where even if he lost, like he could just queue Bomb Warrior twice. And eventually, like the worst thing that was going to happen to him was Bomb Warrior versus Priest, which is an okay matchup depending on who you talk to. I don't know how much the loss of some of the Control Warrior cards in exchange for a few more early game minions and Wrench Caliber really changed that dynamic. But then the series got flipped again because RDU just like a Light Warden that just could not be answered. A lack of Restless Mummy from Silvername's side absolutely changed everything.
And RDU's ready for an interview. RDU, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed I can. Critical win, my friend. A very critical win. Talk to me about this week, how you're feeling, and about this series, some stuff that you found interesting.
So I was feeling not that great going into this week because I was facing my teammate Thais, and it was pretty rough to play against him because he's also my practice partner. And we basically like played a matchup that is kind of coin flippy. I could have done some things better, but like I don't think I could have done much in that series overall. I was pretty down with the morale after I lost, but I really want to give a shout out to my people in chat that came to my stream and supported me even at 2-7. Like it's so nice to know that that there are people that care about you even when you're not doing that well. So huge shout out to them.
I want to ask you, because I think we saw it on your face, when you went into Silvername's turn 4 when he was on the Warrior, and then it passed back to you, and your Light Warden was still alive, like you didn't get Restless Mummy? Like, did you have any expectation that you were going to still have a Light Warden that turn?
No, I was calculating that he could have the Mummy and he could have the Wrench. Mm-hmm. It was pretty unlucky that I didn't get the Cleric. Like, all the Priest players are drawing Cleric every game. And I don't know, in practice, I almost never lost to that matchup. I feel like his Bomb Warrior beats nothing of my decks. I don't know why he queued it 2 times, but I don't know.
Well, now, I mean, your record sits at 3-7. You know, you've mentioned how stressful it's been for you over times, and you mentioned where the support's coming from. How do you expect to manage it in these last 4 weeks? Because these are going to be super crucial matches that you're facing, and you're going to have to be on top of your game.
Yeah, I'll give my best, but I still think I have like between 33% and 50% to relegate. So I already made peace with the possibility of relegating. So I just give my best for the next 4 matches, and what happens, happens. I'm really happy with how I played today and with how I played against Tyson, with how I played against Viper. But I'm still a bit sad that I basically threw against Orange. Like, I will not do that again. I will not.
Can you, last question, I guess, can you give us a spoiler as to what the tweet's going to be? Because it was Oasis Snapjaw last time, right? So what are you, Tunnel Blaster, Sunkeeper Tarim? Like, what's the card here?
Duskfallen Aviana.
Ah, there
Anything
you go.
can happen.
Nice. Excellent.
I kind of like the Tarim. That's the bright side of things. Looking powerful. I want you to get in there, get your hands dirty, win some games already. You make them fight for it.
I'll do it.
You're good enough, you're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you. You deserve to be here. But darn it, I hate that you all have to fight for it.
In my group, and I think in general, at least in Europe, are really good and deserve to be here. So I think anyone of us that is potentially to relegate can relegate. Like, I don't think anybody's favored to do better between the people that are still in the race.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it, honestly. I've been watching you play for years. I've known you for a very long time, and whew, it's feeling real. But my goodness, keep fighting, RDU. It's great to hear from you. I hope you keep putting it up. I think your performance this week did look very strong, and if you keep that up, I think you got a strong shot. So congratulations, and we'll see you next week.
Well played.
Thank you.